Welcome and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rashid Zia, and as Dean of the College, it's my sincere pleasure to welcome you here today and preside over today's celebration. We will begin our ceremony this afternoon with the university's land acknowledgement, followed by the singing of our national anthem by the Brown University Chatter Talks. Please attend to our land acknowledgement. Brown University is located in Providence, Rhode Island, on lands that are within the ancestral homelands of the Narragansett Indian tribe. We acknowledge that beginning with colonialization and continuing for centuries, the Narragansett Indian tribe has been dispossessed of most of their ancestral lands in Rhode Island by the actions of individuals and institutions. We acknowledge our responsibility to understand and respond to those actions. The Narragansett Indian tribe, whose ancestors stewarded these lands with great care, continues as a sovereign nation today. We commit to working together to honor our past and build our future with truth. Please rise for the singing of our national anthem by the Chatter Talks, and please remain standing for the invocation by Reverend Cooper Nelson.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming.
Please remain standing for the invocation. These are your last Brown exams, I promise. Let us pray as we give thanks for a wonderful national anthem. Thank you. Brunonians and family all, in this moment of celebration, we are bold to ask blessing on these stars of Brown's rising generation. Newly illumined by the light of their promise, now enhanced with study, friendship, and coaching. Wisdom resides in these bright lives, entrusted to us for a season, and already radiating outward. Even as they are about to set forth, their brightness has never been more needed. The worlds of medicine, politics, socioeconomic justice, education, environmentalism, journalism, the arts, all yearn for what they have to bring, to see, and to do. All reach toward these newly emerging hearts and minds with hope for leadership that will radiate integrity, imagination, compassion. We who are privileged to pray for them, pray the ancient hope of Brown's charter, that they will have the capacity to discharge the offices of life with usefulness and reputation. Today, we marvel and give great thanks for their capacity to have traveled with agility, perseverance, and distinction, a fraught and tangled path to this day of completion, navigating COVID and loss and illness and great challenge on the national and global front. We remember clearly the many blessings and strengths, human and material, that made each of their journeys possible. Faculty, deans, coaches, university resources, benefactors, and most especially, dear family and dear friends who loved and supported these newly minted scholars. We remember with love all who were lost in their circles during their time at Brown, and we pray that they are with us today in spirit. Bless all in this season of completion and beginning. May the bright cord of friendship and gratitude be sufficient to hold close the family of Brown in the years to come, that ever true, we may serve what is good and strive always for excellence, seeking to be worthy of the beautiful blessing of life itself. Always, amen. Please be seated.
Thank you, Reverend Cooper Nelson. As a dean, faculty member, and alumnus of Brown, this is one of my favorite events of the entire year. For those fortunate enough to have attended this event before, you know that the Midyear Completion Ceremony is one of the most joyous events on the Brown calendar. This event showcases how we as a community can come together to transform a time and a place. This auditorium, perhaps a space in which many of you have spent countless hours in classes and exams, staging performances and debating ideas, will be transformed this afternoon through your presence and our voice into a hall of celebration. Therefore, to begin our festivities today, please let us practice raising our voices to thank those who made today's events possible. Could you please give a warm round of applause to our many colleagues in events, facilities management, media services, public safety, and the college who helped make this event a reality. Next, let's please lift up and applause those whose hopes and cares have lifted up the students in this room. Let us please applaud your families, friends, and loved ones, those who are here in person today, and those who are here in spirit. And finally, let us please provide a loud and commanding welcome to you and your peers in the amazing class of 22.5. For over 30 years, the college has convened a mid-year completion ceremony to celebrate the achievements of students like you, students who are fortunate enough to be the members of not one, but two classes, students who have charted their own pathways through Brown. Whether you arrived as a mid-year student, took a leave of absence to found a venture, or care for a loved one, or simply pursued opportunities to continue your studies a little bit longer, you will soon be completing your formal coursework with us at Brown. This ceremony is not meant to replace graduation. Many of you have already walked through the Van Wickle gates, and you are all welcome to walk through those gates again when your degrees will officially be conferred this May, and then every May thereafter as part of Commencement and Alumni Weekend, the largest annual celebration of the Brown community. Today, though, is a moment just for you and your loved ones, your family and friends, your teachers and classmates. It would be an understatement to say that your path to this day was challenging. I know and acknowledge that many of us in this room have lost loved ones in recent years. We have witnessed tremendous injustice, and at a time when dignity and humanity have called upon us to care for one another, we have witnessed polarization, violence, and the senselessness of war. Understandably, at times, we may have been tempted to lose hope and faith, and yet we are still here together. Yes, on this wintry day, we are together in this hall celebrating you and your classmates, celebrating the power of education and the light of hope provided through knowledge. And therefore, I wanted to help place this moment in context, because throughout recorded history, there have been traditions of communities gathering in winter near the solstice to celebrate the light of hope. For example, in Iran, where I was born, the longest night of the year is marked by a celebration called Sheb Yalda, whose very name, the night of the birth, or the night of the birth of light, implies it is the fusion of Zoroastrian and Judeo-Christian celebrations of the solstice. During Sheb Yalda, friends and family convene together for warmth and community amid the longest night of the year. And then they stay up together all night, eating and drinking, talking and dancing, keeping the night and darkness at bay with voices and laughter, and keeping hope alive through a celebration of our shared humanity. And for those who are young, younger than me, they would stay up all night to watch the sun rise over the horizon, much like the sun and brown seal overhead breaks through the clouds. Today, class of 2022.5, we are here in community to celebrate you and your achievements, your hope and your light that provides warmth and comfort to us all. We are so very proud of you all and all that you will achieve beyond this campus. We do not know what comes next, but we do know that it will be better because of you and your classmates, your generosity and talents, your ingenuity and compassion. With that, it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, the 19th president of Brown University, Christina H. Paxson.
So thank you, Dean Zia, and welcome everybody. I am very, very excited to be here as we recognize and celebrate our mid-year graduates, the great Brown University class of 2022.5, which is very distinctive. Nobody else has graduates with that number. So congratulations, it's terrific to see all of you here. To the families and friends of our amazing graduates, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that your support has meant the world to them during their time at Brown. Now, at the risk of embarrassing a graduating student, and I don't even know whether this student is here, I have to start with a shout out to one of our 22.5ers. I will get that down. And this is Riley Flores. Is Riley here? Okay, sorry. Riley was featured in a recent BDH article. Riley won an award for the best presentation at the 2022 National Convention of the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers for work that will advance research on glioblastoma. Amazing. Congratulations, Riley. Graduation ceremonies, even mid-year graduation completion ceremonies, are very much wrapped up in pomp and circumstance and tradition. We do this pretty much the same way every year. But above all else, they're filled with great joy. And I hope you all feel that sense of joy and accomplishment as you spend time here today, even if you have a few exams left to study for. 4.5 years ago, give or take, maybe a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, you arrived on College Hill to begin your Brown journeys. And you were bursting with purpose and curiosity and excitement. Now, during those first few days when you were at Brown, you heard many speeches, several by me. And my guess is that most of you were too excited or maybe too exhausted from late nights with friends to remember much, if any, of what was said. So let me remind you. When I welcomed you to campus at the opening convocation on September 4th, 2018, I spoke about the unique lived experiences and talents that all of you brought to this university and how those experiences would enrich the Brown community. And I asked you at the time, I don't know if any of you remember this, you probably don't, to reflect on one part of Brown's mission statement, which refers to Brown as, quote, a partnership of students and teachers in a unified community. And I posed this question to you at the time. In what sense, despite the great diversity of backgrounds and experiences that you bring, in what sense are we unified? What does that mean? And I think this question is actually more relevant today than it was 4.5 years ago, because we're in a time of great division and political polarization nationally and globally. And as has already been pointed out, our nation and our world are confronting issues of racial justice, injustice, climate change, disinformation, grave threats to democratic institutions, among others. You know these issues really well. They have permeated your entire time at Brown. So one thing I want to make clear is that unity doesn't mean, it shouldn't mean, that we're all unified in our views on how these and other issues should be addressed. It doesn't mean we all believe the same things or agree on solutions or approaches to these problems. That's not what unity means in a university community. Instead, it means, I hope, that we share a set of fundamental values that are really deeper than social and political viewpoints. A dedication to seeking truth, a belief that advancing knowledge and understanding is the path to a better world, a commitment to respecting human dignity and treating others with kindness and a generosity of spirit. These are the values that unify us as a community, and I really hope that you feel that, understand that, and take those values out with you into the world beyond Brown. Now, the irony, of course, the great irony, is that during your time at Brown, you experienced a completely unexpected event, a global pandemic, that pushed us apart and isolated us from each other. So when I think of the early days of the pandemic, I conjure up this mental image of students, some of you, lined up 6 feet apart, masks on, waiting to get into the ratty. And that image is sort of just epitomizes the social isolation that all of us experienced at some point during the pandemic. But at the same time, your experience as Brown students during a pandemic has actually unified you in very unique ways. You know, you came together to protect the health of each other and to protect the local community. You found ways to keep your friendships, your networks, your communities together virtually. You held remote concerts. I listened to some of them. You supported our local healthcare providers, tutored children online, and you developed and adapted research projects under the most bizarre of circumstances. And I could go on, but I think the point is that perhaps more than any other generation of Brown students, you forged community, and you forged community even during a time when it was very difficult to socialize and to be together. And so over time, I expect that you'll come to appreciate that living through this common experience has bonded you, has unified you in ways that you may not really even fully appreciate today. And that experience will indelibly shape your perspective to life going forward. The lives you live after Brown will be unique, as diverse and wide-ranging as the experiences and backgrounds that you brought to this university when you first arrived. And my hope for you is that in your lives going forward, regardless of what you do and where you find yourselves, your work will be to build understanding and common ground and unity in your communities and in your workplaces and in your social groups. And that you'll treasure the fact that you can accomplish more and you can do better, be better, when you work together in unity with others. So to come back to that BDH article on Riley Flores, sorry, Riley, I'm going to do it again. Although I was in awe of the scientific work that was featured in that article, what I really loved most was Riley's quote. And Riley said, quote, "It's not me, it's the lab. It's my mentor, Sel. They're the ones who have also won the award. I'm incredibly proud of it. I think it's going to make an impact." And I think the lesson here is really simple, that brilliant and dedicated people working together can change the world. And all of you have the education and the skills and the experiences and the passion and the values to be those people. So I couldn't be any prouder of you than I am. I can't wait to see what you do next. I can't wait to see you at future reunions and commencements. And good luck to all of you. You're amazing. So congratulations.
Thank you, President Paxson. It has been university tradition since the very first class, more than 250 years ago, to hear from students completing their degree requirements. Today, we will hear from 3 of your classmates. It is my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Seth Goldstein. Seth is an environmental studies concentrator from Madison, Wisconsin. At Brown, Seth has been actively involved in creating community and supporting his classmates. Seth has served as a student facilitator in the Community Dialogue Project, engaged with the Transformative Justice Program, served as a student educator in Be Well's Masculinity 101 program, and ventured out with the Brown Outing Club and Bolt, the Brown Outdoor Leadership Training. Seth is also deeply committed to civic engagement, having taken a gap year in 2016 and a personal leave in fall 2020 to participate in the political process and help support voters in his home state. Please join me in welcoming Seth.
Good afternoon, everybody. One of my favorite childhood stories comes from the old Yiddish folktale, Something from Nothing. In this story, a child loves a blanket and takes it everywhere until it starts to fray. When it seems like it might be time to throw it out, grandfather, a tailor, finds a way to reimagine what the piece of fabric could be. This happens again and again until finally the last scrap of fabric is lost. Even a skilled tailor like grandfather cannot make something from nothing. Our time at Brown has been defined by many things, from world events like the pandemic and the 2020 election, to long nights in the Rock, snowball fights on the green, and our 2, not 4, spring weekends. We defined it ourselves by taking classes outside of our comfort zones and concentrations. And yet, Brown has been most defined by our relationships. These relationships have transformed how we think, act, and even what we think is possible for the world. These relationships have become our world and our blanket. And today, many of us fear that world is ending. We wonder, what happens if we lose the last scrap of the blanket? When I first arrived at Brown, like many of us, I felt out of place. It was hard to adjust to new people and demanding classes. I didn't know how to build the types of relationships that would allow me to share myself both vulnerably and authentically. But slowly, over Ivy Room smoothies and long nights on my twin bed in Keeney, I began to knit my blanket. And then, before we were ready, we were sent home. And every thread of our blankets were tested. We took time off for medical, family, and personal reasons, and we learned how to return to campus, navigating new and challenging social situations while our families and communities still struggle with the long impacts of the pandemic. So now, together, but like the grandfather in the story, we got creative. We found ways to stay in touch online and over Zoom. And even though some threads were lost and the edges were frayed, we found a way to transform our blankets into something new. We found that we could love and cherish these relationships even more than before. And thanks to all of you, we are here together today. And now we face the next chapter. So much is still unknown. In the story, once the child loses the last scrap of the blanket, it's gone. I love this story, but I really struggle with this ending. How, after all of that creativity and imagination, can the result be the grandfather shrugging and saying that he can't make something from nothing? Why does the story assume that the more we love something, the more it gets worn down and battered until it only exists as a memory? So now, together, let's dream of a new ending to this story. One that is inspired by our friends, family, and teachers, our blankets. In our version, we learn how to knit together. We have the chance to take all that we have learned from building community through incredibly difficult circumstances and share it. We have the chance to transform the world and the way we see each other through greater empathy and care. When we knit this blanket together, we learn that our imagination and creativity to solve problems, big and small, knows no bounds. In our ending, we don't lose the last scrap of the blanket. We hold on to our hopes for our future and for each other. We have navigated so much already in our time at Brown, and now it's time for each of us to continue to be creative and kind. It's time to celebrate that we have learned to make something from nothing. Congratulations, class of 22.5.
Thank you, Seth, for that inspiring speech. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce a pair of speakers, Charlotte Scott and Liliana King. Charlotte and Lily are close friends who are both double concentrating in economics and history. Their friendship was so close that they spent the latter part of the spring 2020 semester studying together in Lily's mom's childhood home in South Kingstown, Rhode Island. Then in the fall of 2020, they both decided to take leaves to pursue professional opportunities in their hometowns. Charlotte returned to London, England, to pursue opportunities in finance, and Liliana returned to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where she worked in marketing and communications. Returning to Brown in the spring of 21, they both made the most of their time together with friends and classmates. You may have met them through their active participation in classes, their treks with the Brown Outing Club, over a meal at our beloved dining halls, or heard them cheering on classmates at sporting events. Please join me in welcoming Charlotte and Lily to the stage.
Good afternoon. I'm Lily. And I'm Charlotte. We are members of the graduating class of 22.5. Parents, family members, friends, faculty, staff, thank you all for making this day possible. Thank you for supporting us through the tough lessons both in and out of the classroom. Graduating from Brown is not easy, and it takes a lot of resources. Today, as we begin life after Brown, let us all take a moment to look back. Was it worth it? Students, let's think back to our first year at Brown. Many of us shopped classes in this room. Maybe it was CS 15 with Andy Van Dam, or Intro Neuro with John Stein. You might have even sat here drinking a to-go cup of VW coffee, trying to wake up for Professor Friedberg's 9 a.m. Principles of Economics. If you did happen to be awake in time to shop the first day of principals, you would have learned about the concept of opportunity cost. For those of us who didn't take the class or are not morning people, here's a review. Opportunity cost is what must be given up to obtain something else. Family, friends, faculty, we've all spent something to complete our Brown education. In classical economics, we view people as rational decision makers for some reason. We learn how to determine if a decision is worth it by modeling choices as functions subject to certain constraints. Think about your investment in the class of 22.5. Time, labor, money. These are the inputs of our function. The outputs, the was it worth it answers, are more complex and uniquely Brown. One such output is human capital, the economic term assigned to the ways in which education increases future productivity. So then, why have we invested in Brown? Class of 22.5, what about our shared experience makes it worth it?
Every Brown student knows the value of the open curriculum, the freedom to take classes in any discipline. We forge academic paths unique to ourselves. We are expected to take scary classes, be it a seminar or an intro to public speaking. Economically, the riskier the choice, the higher the payoff. Brown allows us to hedge this risk. The expected payoff of exploration outweighs possible negative outcomes. Our investments push us to explore in the classroom and to explore outside of it. We have literally climbed mountains with the outing club. Right here, on the main green, we can study on the steps while our friends bench press, play spike ball, and pole dance. Yes, pole dance. At the athletic facilities, our fearless band scrambles across the ice.
They're chirping, defend the den, roll bears, 69 seconds left.
Charlotte and I have been to 21 football games. We have shown up with good vibes, red wigs, and lots of props, thanks to the newly minted Brown U Hype Squad. There are passions, disagreements, wins, and a couple of legendary losses. A Brown education is the Brown community. But we also struggled. Was it worth it?
Most people would say that college is a transformational experience. Our class had to transform more than most. Through COVID, we've seen the world change, and we've changed with it. In March 2020, we all packed up our dorm rooms indefinitely. Then, from behind a screen, we watched the world stop. Many of us lost loved ones. In some of those moments, we took a breath. Through the uncertainty, chaos, and change, our class faced more transformational choices. Many of us took time off away from Brown. Lily and I share a similar story. We both took a semester leave of absence during fall 2020. Others of us here might be graduating early or have taken more time off. Regardless of when or why, we chose to deviate from the norm. What is the opportunity cost of a leave of absence, of choosing to be different? I was scared. Scared I'd be forgotten by my community. With whom would I camp out in the ratty, other than Dean Zia? Who would I warn, or maybe inform, that there'd be a special donut delivery in the library? We all weighed the marginal costs and benefits of taking a break from Brown. We all chose to step outside the box. It paid off. The class of 22.5 had the opportunity to organize political campaigns and create our own startups. We fished for salmon in Alaska and trained to be professional athletes. In her semester off, Lily ran the marketing department for a chain of ice cream stores in Pittsburgh.
And Charlotte researched bonds at a new investment group in London.
We faced so many choices. As high schoolers, we chose to come to Brown. Maybe that decision was easier. We followed a glorified pathway into the Ivy League. Great. Then we chose to leave. More importantly, we all chose to come back and finish. So, was it worth it? Yes, it was worth it. As Brown graduates, we have earned human capital of our own, and we're just getting started. It's time to think big. One of our professors reminded us this year that if you think inside the box, you are no better than a rat in a cage chasing cheese. But the class of 22.5 has already started to break down those boxes and cages. We must reinvest our human capital into our communities. We can all identify something in the world that is broken. Our time at Brown, fractured as it may have been, has prepared us to take action. We can solve problems in a textbook. Now, it is time to solve problems that don't have a clear answer. We have learned how to love. Now, more than ever, we must remember to trust in the goodness of people. Let's all keep pushing for the changes that we believe in. We can piece together a world that has cracked. Brown is a small box for our big ideas. Each of us is prepared to step outside, to take a risk. Today, we are celebrating our time at Brown. We are equipped with hard skills and a stronger community. So let's be brave. Let's step outside the box. Class of 22.5, it is time to join generations of Brown alumni in repairing the world. Congratulations!
Thank you, Charlotte and Lily, for that joyful speech. Now, I would like to welcome Lindsay Garcia and Wendy Sheridan to help with the highlight of today's festivities. In a few moments, we will present to you the students who will be completing their degree requirements this month. Friends and family, please join me in congratulating the class of 22.5. At this point, I'm supposed to ask you to hold your applause until all the names are read. But please disregard that advice. Since we're finally able to celebrate all of these wonderful students in person, let us please do our very best to applaud each and every one of the mid-year completers. Let them know that we are here to celebrate them.
Seth Goldstein. Charlotte Scott. Liliana King. Natalia Thomas. Ella Peterson. Catherine Beggs. Elvira Fleury. Mateo Poma. Jacques von Steuben. Jenna Mullen. Kayla Duran. Claire Myers. Zoe Maxwell. Mira Singh. Layla Kim. Cottrell Maynard. Aryan Svastov. Cassidy Kornfeld. Jasmine Gabor. Anna Marie Nolte. Nathan Mugairwa. Stella Robertson. Madison Mandel. Benjamin Lipson. Milo Harris. Algata Kudzilo. Nathaniel Hardy. Joseph Lavinka. Lulu West. Theodora Akpinar. Eleni Thompson. Irene Wang. Charlotte Skelsey. Helen Cummins. Zena Dolan. John Graves. Dan Wexler. William Yang. Cal Chen. Morley Haralick. Samuel Merck Kaya. Zach Moore. Caitlin McNally. Gina Sinclair. Kayla Guo. Gabriel Kaplan. Matthew Simcoe. Bruce Bybee. Lauren Lee. Bilal Memon. Nicholas Robley Strauss. Nicholas Fa Song. Ilana House Connect. Ivana Primeo. Joseph Hahn. Anson Shu. Tyler Zickmond. Alexander Waxman. Isabel Toll. Caroline Nash. Michaela Savagnon. Liza Mullet. Katie Peters. Ben Elias Bueno Frison. Raphael Zingier. Max Sweet. Hunter Folsom. Tyler Brown. Alexander Valenti. Clara Epstein. Deborah Marini. Nina Toro Mujid. Manya Carla. Bennett Walks. Zoe Kupetz. Paul Luniski. Ken Shell Smith. Elisa Kyra. Alexandra Griner. Kenneth Joseph Neighbors. Henry Dawson. Jesse Jing. Agnes Tran. Andy Zoe. Keto Ran. Miku Suga. Ilan Upfall. Galen Windsor. Gemma Brand Wolf. Alan Smith. Luke Rossi. Layla Soares. Julia Warmond. Benjamin Cunningham. Juan Pablo Ramos Barosa. Natasha Kuchowski. Hiram Carroll. Simon Giadorna. Bobby Moriarty. Thomas Shaughnessy. Will Canteros. Caroline Troy. Miles Burke. Rhythm Rusty. Niyoshi Parek. Yutong Liu. Morgan Weeks. Albert Zhu. Adam Wang. Rosalind Coris. Georgina Castaneda. Sylvia Atwood. Sienna Capone. Talia Merman. Maya Yohalam Polsky. Sophia Sacerdote. Adam Savat. Yutong Long. Isaac Sonnenfeld. Mark Lavrentiev. Danny Silverston. Elliot Laidlaw. MC Vigilante. Max Heller. Jackson Siegel. Regina Kojana. Dana Altoemi. Tuesday Mueller-Harder. Riley Flores.
Congratulations to the class of 22.5. Before we conclude, I'd like to take this moment to thank our speakers, Charlotte Scott, Liliana King, Seth Goldstein, President Paxson, Reverend Cooper Nelson for the words they shared for this special occasion. Thank you, Lindsay Garcia and Wendy Sheridan from the college, as well as our colleagues from University Events, especially Danielle Izza, Facilities Management, Media Services, University Office of Communications, who helped make this celebration possible. I'm not going to get all of your names, but please join me in thanking Abby, Danielle, Jody, Jose, Kate, Katie, Meg, Connor, Kyle, Paul, Nick, Tarek, Aliana. Please thank everyone who made this event possible. We will conclude with the traditional singing of the alma mater, performed by the Chatter Talks once again. Please join me. If you're unfamiliar, I believe it's in the program, on the back usually.
Please rise.
Alma mater, we hail thee with loyal devotion, and bring to thine altar our offering of praise. Our hearts swell within us with joyful emotion, as the name of Old Brown in loud chorus we raise. The happiest moments of youth's fleeting hours we pass neath the shade of these time-honored walls, and sorrows as transient as April's brief showers